on Africa. So they're having a mini summit that's going to be happening tomorrow at the Westin Beach Resort and Spa. And what's powerful is this is the government of the Virgin Islands linking with businesses, high-profile professionals coming out of Ghana, and with a little more intervention from some of us that have actually worked with the governmental officials, you know, from the Office of the President to other ministries within the Presidential Council in Ghana, as well as other parts of the continent. I'm looking forward to hearing what the outcomes and what the possibilities are in that type of reconnection, because there's other organizations like the IDO International, like the Global African Diaspora Kingdoms, and many others, CARICOM, Reparations Commission, CARICOM in particular, that have been instrumental to reconnections with African nations and have done that with a very wide breadth of support and engagement. So I was really glad to see that part. I also thought it was very powerful and interesting how it took, yes, about 90 minutes, well, an hour and 40, about a little over 90 minutes. But it's it's fantastic because I say this from the depth of my heart, that some persons on the feed inside of Facebook and also on some of the feed inside of YouTube, and I'm sure wherever this is going to be rebroadcast, persons are asking or stating they'll believe it when it happens. And what was wonderful was the references to things that are supporting affordable housing. And maybe that's not the word we need to use in 2026, because affordable housing 25 to 30 years ago would have been like at about $75,000. But affordable housing now is closer to like $200,000, $250,000. So
It's
maybe
a lot of money.
So let's just shift to like sustainable housing, the housing that persons can work towards being able to secure and that can handle Category 5. I always come back to that. Building me a home, helping me to build a home that cannot endure hurricane weather and flooding and earthquakes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a different way that we should perceive that. I think it was also wonderful to see what is happening not only with the territorial park system, and I want to come back to that because that's something that I've been involved in for over 35 years.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yes, alongside my colleague, as well as my family, my cousin, Professor Olasi Davis.
Oh, yes.
Anyone that's speaking of the Maroon Sanctuary Park was within the territorial park system of the Virgin Islands. If you're speaking of the territorial park and then you reference the Maroon Sanctuary Park lands, the next words out of your mouth would be Professor Olasi Davis, in addition to Succeed, and organizations that have been instrumental to preserving, nurturing, and cultivating and protecting those 2,000 plus acres. That really goes back to an Act 4884 when George Jacobus came here and secured what people refer to as Fountain Valley lands, became Carambola. And at the time, it was over 4,000 acres. And over the course of years, there was 800 acres that went to the Carambola Golf Course. Of course, the Carambola Resort properties were constructed and built. I just think it's important that persons know that some of that history, that legacy, you have to mention other persons, and there's a long list.
A long list, yeah.
And it needs to be a marker. So I'm putting that out there as well. I thought it was fabulous that there was charges given to not only the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, and definitely kudos to our very own distinguished Toastmaster, Barbara McIntosh. Serves in that capacity as the director of the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. It was also wonderful to see what was shared for the commissioners in health, Commissioner Encarnacion, for our new Commissioner of Tourism, Jennifer Matarangas King, and even the short reference, I was looking for the picture, for our very own, quite new, but really engaged president at the University of the Virgin Islands, Dr. Sophia George. I think it's important that when we speak about all of these great things that are happening, because we have some challenges at the University of the Virgin Islands. I didn't hear that part in this. And I guess, there's a lot of things we didn't hear about, but I'm just saying, I just know for my own edification, I would have appreciated some directives and attention given, especially since the governor of the Virgin Islands is a graduate alumni of the
Of
University of the
UVI,
Virgin Islands.
yes. Well,
And
let me
right,
just
so go ahead with your
mention
points.
some,
Yes, please.
because I made lots of notes.
I know you made a
About
whole
eight-
set of,
eight pages.
listen, like pages of notes here. I feel like I didn't give it the
He
same.
talked
Yeah.
about the pension system and
Right.
the work he did there, strengthening the economy, shoring up retirement, the 7-year journey that he's been on so far. And he really talked about some $22.5 billion and something available, and schools and things that are happening. in
Even though
that
some of us do
particular area.
not feel that our children should be blended from kindergarten to 8th grade,
Right.
just because of how the social construct of our communities have changed. So perhaps they will separate it in a fashion that benefits the child between K to 3, maybe K to 4,
Mhm.
and then 5 to 8, because there's a lot that happens in puberty. That's all I'm
true.
going to say for that one. But again, kudos to the Department of Education on having at least one school built
Absolutely.
in this time.
Well, yeah, and there's going to be, well, there's supposed to be a school opening in July. Yeah,
Wonderful.
that's right. So that is really very good. He talked about tax refunds, and he also talked about the street naming initiative, which I hear that from time to time on the radio being advertised. $21 million paid in retro payments, and that's something which we didn't really hear too much about prior to the administration coming on board. The rum cover over,
Correct.
which is now more stabilized, if I could put it that way. And
How did you say stabilize? I'm gonna use that one. I'm gonna use that one. Yeah.
Well, it's a little more stabilized. There's still, things, because we still have to try to figure out, even though we're going to be getting that for the next 30 years. So how that is going to have an impact on a number of other things we're doing. And the schools which are coming up, that's really very, very, very important indeed. I think it said 13 school campuses to be developed. I think the complex, no. One of the other schools that is really supposed to be coming up in a big way. That's not going to be around anymore.
I just think we should be really mindful. We should just be mindful, demolishing schools before the new school is open, functional, the quirks taken out and maintained, because that it's not so much building the school always, it's the maintenance of the actual facilities, right? So that's always been, again, for me, looking at what persons have said. I remember teaching at Central back in the 80s, and that was always an issue. And then after Hugo, which just demolished everything, there were a number of things that didn't happen in regard to maintenance. So that's always been the concern, which is why many persons, many families end up sending their children off island. I'm really excited about the cancer treatment facilities that are being instituted.
Well, just to get back to the school.
Oh yeah, go ahead to the school. Go ahead,
Central High.
Yes.
The idea is that the school will be rebuilt, but at the same time, the school will continue on another part of the complex. So it's not going to be closed off.
So it's not going to just be demolished.
Oh no. Oh yeah. Because
we were like,
found out a little bit about that and what's happening. Because then if you're just building, then we got to ask ourselves where those youngsters going to go to get their education. One of the other things is the rebuild of the One Louis Hospital. And I think that that's important. But having said that, the current problems at the hospital are very serious. There was an article in the newspaper just not too long ago indicating a short of nurses, short of doctors, equipment that isn't available. And I think that there are a number of people in the community. There's a gentleman called Roberta James. He's been trying to work with some organizations to see what funding could be made available so that the long list, and I could send you a copy of it at some stage, of things that are needed at the hospital and needed now at the hospital. So
Right now,
right now, right.
that way we
right
can
now.
stop having to bring care packages
Yeah.
for patients that are in the space.
Yes.
Care packages
Oh,
that have things that should be available
Mhm.
in the hospital,
Right
or much
now.
less
Yeah.
even in the clinic spaces
Yeah.
that are run by the Department of Health, where, let's, for example, maternity care.
Yes.
You have persons that, again, we bring care packages to make sure that these young mothers and these expectant mothers
Mhm.
with young children, or just period, have resources to prepare for their birth and their deliveries, to make it as comfortable so they can nest and properly have the resources they need for their newborn children.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
really very important. I think that needs to be a priority that we look at very carefully. The couple of other things, street lights all over the place.
And drones. Let's make sure we heard
and
that part.
drones. Yeah.
Drones that are going to be facilitating.
Yeah, I did
so
hear that,
people need
yeah.
to start being mindful
Mhm.
of where you are, what
That
you're doing. Because I know I have my drones, but right, they
Right.
tell me where I can
Well,
fly
we
them.
had a young lady on the radio just the other day talking about drones. because
Okay.
She likes drones quite a bit and
Okay.
they're very important. VI Slice and some of the work that they're doing to help families to own their own homes. So that is a matter of concern that we really, which I think is very good. And then there is that ferry over by, I think, St. John to
Right.
go over to
Right.
St. John. That is
And they actually
good.
named it after the 1733. It
Mhm.
would have been nice if he explained that to the persons in the room. They probably didn't know
Mhm.
the relevance of 1733 in regards to the African Revolution.
That's right.
Some call it a rebellion
Mhm.
in St. John that started November 23rd, 1733,
Mhm.
and where the Africans who were enslaved, and this was like the first generation
Mhm.
of many of the Africans coming out of West Africa, some Central Africa and South Africa, and led by Queen Brefu, make sure that we understand it was a woman as well,
Yeah, that's right.
and King Kanta and Prince Claes, that led this rebellion, more accurately revolution, because they'd strategized to do this, where it kept the
You
island
had
of
no
St.
choice.
No choice. They had the island of St. John
Yeah.
protected
Mhm.
as a sovereign
Mhm.
black space,
Right.
African space more correctly, for from November 23rd, 1733. The record says until on or about May 24th,
Right.
1734. And I
Mhm.
think what's so powerful is till May 24th, 1734. That's a give or take a little more than 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And May 25th in 2026, since the 1950s, we observe and commemorate African Liberation Day. I just think that
Well,
the
I
synergy is
Mhm.
powerful. So it was wonderful to know that the ferry, which hopefully will also have, he's indicated there's going to be a barge service between St. Croix
Mhm.
and St. Thomas. That's going to be very powerful as
Very,
well.
very good.
So we're
Um,
looking forward.
Also
Sounds
of
fabulous.
importance, free internet. I think he said here 50,000 users of internet,
Yes.
and that's a help along the way because
Great.
the internet is a modern thing. Recreation got some mention as well.
Yes.
Renhall Jackson, Pool and Park,
Yes.
and Frederick, and things of that particular nature. And
I was waiting for the announcement of the Virgin Islands AgriFest
Oh,
during
yeah.
President's Weekend. I was waiting for it.
Mhm.
I did see our commissioners, so I was excited. I was waiting for it. So I
Yeah.
guess that would be, again, these are the things, the little cheat sheet notes that you swipe and you remember, like this
Mhm.
and that
And
and
that's right.
this.
And that's
Right.
coming up, I think it's the 14th or
Well, yes, it
something.
starts the
Start
14th.
on the 14th.
As a
yeah.
matter of fact, on the eve of
Mhm.
that,
Mhm.
the Virgin Islands Caribbean Cultural Center will be hosting our relaunch at the Research Technology Park Conference
Oh,
Suite
really?
from 12, just a short luncheon from
Mhm.
12 to 2, so persons can get an update on the new things that are
Yeah.
happening at the Virgin Islands
That
Caribbean Cultural Center.
path just
at
seems
UBI.
to be very interesting.
Oh, it's
you know.
powerful.
Extremely
It's powerful.
interesting.
Powerful. Not only interesting,
Yeah.
but they're doing a lot.
Mhm.
It's a lot being done at the University of the Virgin Islands Research and Technology Park.
Right.
There's a lot being done at the University of the Virgin Islands, and I'm looking forward so that maybe it didn't happen tonight, but as we're moving forward in the conversations that persons have about what may have been included, what was highlighted tonight, as well as some of the things that can continue to be highlighted through the balance of this year in his final tenure as governor of the Virgin Islands.
Right, and of course we talked about work with the 36th legislature.
Yes, that was very successful.
Yes, and how they worked with him. And he also said promises made were kept to the people. So
there was a lot of comments when he said that one, though. That was, I mean, what I was attempting to do between typing, listening, engaging was also looking at how persons began to not just critique, because this wasn't about criticizing the State of the Territory address, although there's persons that that's their priority, and I leave that to the persons that have that expertise. But this was an opportunity for persons to just know these are some of the things that the Bryan and Roche administration met. These are some of the things that they were able to achieve, and these are some of the things that they're leaving in regard to the next executive administration.
That's true.
Going from this point, bringing it forward, instead of rehashing everything from the past and who didn't do this correctly, who could have done better, what kind of money situation. I thought it was very interesting, and I'm sure persons about there were certain things that were never mentioned.
Yeah, well, that's true. I
never mentioned that are of high concern, including things that are in the newspapers all this week. So I think it's important that we look at that. I was really glad to see the camaraderie and the connection. Our delegate to Congress, the Honorable Stacey Plaskett, was present, engaged, and so forth. I think it was very wonderful, that type of an embrace, looking at the fact that the legislature, our 36th legislature, was really enveloping this process. I'm really excited about Nakai. I have to highlight.
The young man, he was
Nakai, but listen, he's a new student in one of my classes, but more importantly, he said to me, I won't be in class on Monday because I've been invited to go to the State of the Territory. And, everybody in the classroom, really, and it gave wonderful opportunity for him to share.
Well, it was nice to see him there as a youngster. I would have
in the School of Nursing.
I would have liked to have seen heard more conversation about the youth, because I think that one of the main reasons we're here on Earth is to pass things on to the young people. So I really would have liked to have heard more about that in general.
And I would have liked to have heard that segue into the fact that there is a 6th Virgin Islands Constitutional Convention in effect, because several of the delegates were present.
Yeah, well, I didn't hear anything about the Constitution.
But I'm just saying, especially if you're speaking of your alliances with your federal partners.
Right.
And we'll come back to that piece, because again, there's some things that were shared when we're speaking of harmony, unity, and sustainability in this region. We are geographically in the Caribbean. Our relationships with our Caribbean neighbors must be harmonious, and they must support our familial, ethnic kinships in this region, especially if we reach and are bringing our reconnection with the African continent. That means that we're enveloping the wider Caribbean Americas and Africa. And so I say this very clearly because you watched me muddle through this while we were listening to this. There is a form of diplomacy and a authentic revisitation to this relationship we have with the British Virgin Islands. Many of us, even our students at the University of the Virgin Islands, in the last 10 to 15 years, even before we started the Virgin Islands Caribbean Cultural Center, before we started the WBI radio station, there was always this nuance of United Virgin Islanders. It was just beyond just Virgin Islands, US, British Virgin Islands, because that little strip between, especially St. John and Tortola, that people swim or do their little boating and so forth, it's important that we respect the relationship. So I'm hoping that some of the things that were referenced tonight that could have been seen out of the light of the type of diplomacy that this administration usually exercises, regardless of what the situations are in the 48 contiguous U.S. with its current administration that is very focused on the interests of the United States. We have to remember that, yes, we are a U.S. territory, non-incorporated, non-self-governing territory of the United States. Some persons simplify it to just a colony, and it means that we have to shift and ascend in how we relate with our brothers and sisters in this region.
Well,
so I just want the Premier of the British Virgin Islands to know that there were some things said tonight that were said from the governor of the Virgin Islands that many in the community are requesting that it be revisited so that we can strengthen the ties that we've always had with the British Virgin Islands, since we have our kinfolk, our bloodline are linked between the Virgin Islands, U.S. and the British Virgin Islands. Just make sure that you know that I said that.
Right. The only thing I would
say
say about that is that it's still in the discussion stage. So we don't know exactly what the end product would be as we go along, because it's sometimes we talk about how we feel in general. Not necessarily.
This is diplomacy, viewers and listeners. This is the voice of seasoned, experienced diplomacy and knowledge of labor and relations, in addition to being a distinguished Toastmaster. Oh, heavens. I listen in. Elder, I respect you.
Some things come up from time to time and we discuss them, but doesn't necessarily mean that in the final analysis that there will be things that would be harmful or damage the relationship which has been built with the people of Tortola for BVI.
Because that's like crossing between grandparents and mother, father, sister, brother, cousin, last names, type, land type, persons with belonging status, some with U.S. citizenship, and again, a citizenship that gets questioned even beyond a green card.
Well, there are lots of questions being made. Well, certainly our governor didn't say anything about the President Trump and some of the ideas he have. So all I would say is that at this particular stage, there's discussions of one kind or another, and we will have to see what happens at the end of the day, or even before the end, because the debt has been reduced, according to the governor, considerably. And of course, there's just a lot of work going on. Vision 2040, which is something which being developed through the governor and the EDA for a long period of time. I like the idea that he thanked Governor DeYoung and Governor Mapp for their vision and really what they left behind and the amount of work that has been developed since. One of the problems I find, which is really very difficult to deal with, if you have lots of money, you're going to have lots of problems in terms of
well, you have access to lots of problems.
Access,
because sometimes you can have a lot of money and you won't see all the problems.
Absolutely.
Because the money lets you cover those things. And I think it was powerful that there was a lot of time spent on the transparency, even in the lack of corruption. Well, let me rephrase. It wasn't the lack of corruption, but the focus on being transparent, having a very stringent procurement process that's so detailed that sometimes it does create bureaucratic issues and delays certain processes in governance. But that is a very stringent procurement process. This being said, and then on the other side, things that we have seen manifest that are definitely clear, and the number of entities in government, even in his previous selections and appointments of leaders in his administration that have not gone in the manner in which he was speaking with this transparency tonight. And again, I'm saying this from a space of things that are still pending legal outcomes, some have led to
Yeah,
convictions.
that's true. That's
However,
true,
the
yeah.
sentencing part, someone asked me that, one of my students asked me that, well, if you're found guilty, why did they sentence you like 6 months, 9 months later? Or why did they find you guilty? And then some people are still out in the road, moving as if they did absolutely nothing, but they're already, I expressed to them, I said, because I'm not a lawyer.
That's right.
And I'm not a judge. And hence I leave that to that judiciary branch of government for them to give us clarity in the ways that they can, so the persons understand that process. So I thought it was really beautiful that tonight it was, the accolades, the positive reflections of where we started, what we've been able to achieve. And granted, there's some things I like that we're not finished.
No, he did say that.
Right.
He
And
said we're not finished.
and that it's not just one administration that is to be highlighted. I will definitely be on record as saying I look forward, since he represents this ninth realm of gubernatorial leadership in the Virgin Islands, it would be welcoming to have a woman in that position as governor of the Virgin Islands moving forward, to actually culminate all of these things that have happened from the time of Governor Melvin Evans, through
Well, I wouldn't say a woman. I'd like to say a lady.
I'm going to leave you to that.
Yeah,
so I'm going to be very clear and direct. I'm looking for a woman. You can call her lady. I'm going to say it correctly because now you remind me of Fela.
Yeah.
Right? Because Fela Kuti used to say that, I be lady, no. Right? I be lady, no. So I hear you on that.
And a lady.
Right. And I think that what was the other part that made that kind of idea come forward tonight was the fact that when I see a governor of the Virgin Islands pull up a quotation from the Honorable First President of Ghana, Dr. Kwame, let me be specific, Dr. Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, in the middle of a State of the Territory address. Not only was that very well received by our visiting dignitaries from Ghana, but it also brings truth as power to the next layer, even if it was just said because it sounds good and it looks pretty and it's appropriate. But it's wonderful to see that linkage, because there's many of us here in the Virgin Islands that have been challenged, ostracized, ridiculed, and just outright put to the side. What do you say? Stomped on.
Absolutely. Right. And one of the things
for supporting reconnections with Africa. So I'm hoping that those persons that were not in the room that do this reconnection work with Africa, and I put my name in the calabash bowl, are more well received in this regard in the near future. So I just cut it straight so people can just know.
And then one of the things I would have liked is I would have liked the governor to talk about his weaknesses. Because,
I agree with you. But this was a State of the Territory address. Highlighting that we're a territory with all of this signage saying United States Virgin Islands. But when he closed, he knew to say the legal, accurate, appropriate name of these 4 islands, Virgin Islands of the United States. So it's Virgin Islands US or VI-US. And I like to put it as VI-US.
Yeah, and I understand that.
There we go.
However, I just feel
how
as
could he have done that? Where do you think he could have done that?
It's really very important.
A nice
but you see, the thing is that the reality of life is that however strong you are, you're going to have some weaknesses.
Absolutely.
And often the weaknesses that you have, if you recognize them,
then they can be ameliorated by your strength.
That's right. Yeah. There is no situation where you're going to have strengths and no weaknesses. So it's really very important to be able to balance them up from time to time. And
I wish you the best with that one. I will just say that I don't recall that being a common delivery message.
It's okay to say
but you're right.
It's okay to say I'm weak and I made
Or
a
maybe,
mistake there.
right, you could have said, woo,
Mm,
I hope you're listening,
Yeah.
Honorable Governor Albert Bryan Jr., to what DTM Abdul Ali has indicated as part of the extension of this very eloquent.
Oh yeah, it's
The
very
oration skills.
Mhm.
I understand why he used to work with Generation Now back in the day.
Oh yeah,
And
that's where
have
we
the
started.
remember they used to do the public speaking
Mhm.
competitions.
Mhm.
And at one point they stopped letting my children be in the competitions because they kept winning.
Mhm.
And I understood that because I said, first time you win great is novel, but after the second time and the third, you might want to shift up a bit
Right,
and
absolutely.
make some room for some other young people. I wish that would continue though, because that's something
yeah.
that we
Well, they might start that.
that's true. That's true. That's
You
true.
never.
He will.
know
He may
what
have a
might
little
happen.
extra time
Yeah,
after next year.
after that's right. Just to look at some other things, the economy is looking better from
Right.
his point of view. He did mention the fact of the salary increases. I think from $27,000 to 35, and found the money for that. That's good.
Okay.
No question about that. Rebuilding tourism. That's also the festival that was really very good. Strengthen the market with a vibe like no other. That was interesting as well.
It's St. Croix,
Mhm.
a vibe like no other. That was a tagline
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
through the Virgin Islands Department of Tourism, and that's been the piece. People, forget sometimes that we speak of St. Croix, a vibe like no other, because it is a vibe like no other.
That's right. Yeah,
And I think
that's
it's
true.
important
And
for
I
us to
think
remember.
that I like the idea in his mind about WAPA lowering the rates. Yeah, we're going to see if that, and he did quite a bit to help WAPA stabilize it a bit. He used to put some money in there. Not everybody agreed with that, but the reality was that
do what you
helped.
can. Do
That's
what you
right.
can.
Yeah.
Do what you
Mhm.
can. Just make the quality of life, making the quality of life here in the Virgin Islands
Mhm.
more sustainable, more welcoming, more harmonious for the people of the Virgin Islands. I am not saying that visitors aren't to benefit. I'm not saying that newcomers are not to benefit, but make the people that this is their primary home.
Mhm.
This is where they put down their roots. This is where their boots are on the ground.
Absolutely.
Make sure that it's beneficial for them, because sometimes we do so much for everyone else, we don't do anything for our own.
Well, I'll tell you.
Just saying,
Based
that's
on
observation.
based on what I heard tonight and reading and checking the news and so forth, I'm going to give him 75% out of 100 for his contributions. Because
Okay,
I
now
think
I'm not going to do any grading. I will leave my grading in my compass affairs at the University of the Virgin Islands. There was not a full rubric prepared for this particular gathering tonight.
Well,
so I'm going to leave that to the elder that sees it.
That's how it is.
And you could get away with this.
Yeah. Well, the reason for that, is it cannot be said that he didn't do anything.
Correct.
And it cannot be said that he would have changed the course completely in all ways. Having said that, when you look, the little retro that came down, you also look that money was found to be able to increase the salaries for people. I think that's good. The streets, the lights along the road, and the list goes on in a number of important areas. So, and all of this is happening despite inflation and so forth. From a personal level, I would like to see an International Children's Day. And my reason for saying that is because I think we have to reach out to the children and let them know you are very important. You're no more important than we are. We got rights too, but we want to respect your rights. I think
those are the things, like as I listen to you, DTM Ali, you are absolutely correct and accurate. I know that inside of the previous state of the territory addresses, and I've always asked self-determination, Kujichagulia. We talk about this at Kwanzaa, but we talk about it all here. You know, there's a whole Office of Self-Determination. It's connected to constitutional development. It's connected to how we deal with our identity and culture here in the Virgin Islands and in the wider Caribbean and the Americas. However, how we reference ourselves, how we embrace and care for our elders, our youth.
And the children.
Well, that's what, notice how I said it. I speak of elders and I speak of youth and everyone in between. It's really important, critical, that some of those things are highlighted. I felt it was really wonderful that there were examples of persons that have been successful in the SLICE program, you know, secure housing. I felt it was wonderful. I mean, I'm going to put out my bragging card, you know, that Nikai Theodore was able to, you know, a nursing major.
And he smiled, you know, he got up.
He got up and waved. I mean, but again, I have to listen, I have to give points. Because I told him, I said, represent well. And I have to say he represented well. And again, I always highlight, you know, just seeing, you know, the representatives from the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs, you know, from the Department of Planning and Natural Resources, all of the agencies, you know, the Economic Development Authority, you know, all of the entities, the Virgin Islands Police Department. I mean, everybody, police, right? I think it was important to see that there is a desire, authentic desire, to show the camaraderie, but also the elements that work. Knowing, and those of us that know already know, that this state of the territory address, his final state of the territory address, could have looked very bleak and very pessimistic. So hopefully from this point forward, you know, if anyone that speaks of legacy now, and it's funny because a lot of the work that many of us have been involved in,
he's trying to get the legacy. I think there is some group that they're trying to get together or have got together to make the film and so forth.
Well, that's something that he can do on his own. He has that kind of resource and expertise, and that's wonderful. I think that for the benefit of the people of the Virgin Islands, legacy means leaving the space much better than you left it. So I'm going to say that then you met it.
Oh, yeah.
Leaving this space called the Virgin Islands of the U.S. A better space, more advanced, more sustainable, more harmonious, and less militaristic, so that persons do not feel that they are in a police state. I said it, and it's okay. And I'm saying it with love and spiritually grounded favor. And I'm asking that people recognize, you know, this is when I was expecting a tad more around the involvement of the faith-based community, because the faith-based community cuts across all of these elements.
I think they had a day, their prayer. There was. They
did not invite some people. Should I go technical? There's a number of us that are ordained ministerial priests and priestesses, and I don't recall that invitation.
There was a prayer.
Like I said, I'm just highlighting that it's really important that when we say these things, that we authentically are as inclusive and loving. But it's okay. I heard you very clearly, Honorable Governor Albert Bryan Jr. We appreciate the candor in which you were able to present the State of the Territory address to the people of the Virgin Islands, the wider Caribbean, and beyond. And we're looking forward for all of the implementation and the successes that you referenced, and the areas that seem gray to people, that people want to throw darts for. We're going to close our door and address them. So that the next time that we come out in a public space, we're moving as a united Virgin Islands.
Absolutely.
And of course, highlighting the eloquence of work being done here in the Virgin Islands of the U.S.
So what I'm going to
I know you ready to be here all night.
But we're going to finish just now. So just put this on the camera.
Okay, what are we trying
so
to
that so that people could see the governor there, and those who are looking in, and they will see. So that's my 75 75%.
Okay, you say what I'm saying. Some people might have, like I said, I'm not here to grade or evaluate or assess. I was just here to offer some clarification, some commentary,
Yeah.
some things that were highlighted, because at the end of the day, I
Mhm.
need to get myself together so I can be prepared for walking the mine
Yeah.
and teach our youth
Okay.
in the most appropriate manner possible, because I know this is going to be another layer of conversation.
Oh yeah, well tomorrow the Daily News will be
Right.
coming up.
Source.
The source
Yes,
will be
yes,
coming for the consortium.
Yeah,
will be
well,
coming.
everybody, like I said,
People will be talking,
yeah,
so,
we're looking forward to seeing that
yeah.
copy of that speech.
absolutely.
So persons who
And
doesn't
again,
go
it's
through
gonna
with
be
the
long
rest,
to
yeah,
read, but
yes. Oh no, well,
Yeah.
usually that's available.
yeah.
Usually,
mhm.
and I must say, it's usually available within 24 hours, because there's a speech that's prepared for that. And of course,
Absolutely.
he's able to add, the different details and the highlights,
Yeah.
that are of his pleasure
Mhm.
as the governor of the Virgin Islands, of course. So again, we definitely want to just say thank you, the viewers and
Definitely.
listeners that are
Mhm,
here or
mhm.
not, or
Right.
listening to this afterwards.
Right.
And a special shout out to WSTX.
That's right.
for
And
making
Josh
this-
Rames.
Josh!
Josh Rames is the man. Yes, yeah.
Right, we're
get
giving a
hold
special
of
shout
him
out.
and let him know what we're doing.
Absolutely.
So we'll
absolutely.
just go and relax and do some other things now.
Like I said, I
maybe
can
look at the
close
speech
this.
again
Yes,
and see where we.
it's an honor
see
and a
something.
privilege to
That's
be able
right,
to
yeah.
share with you
Thanks a
Yes,
lot.
yeah,
Yeah,
Molly.
all right.
after
Well,
this
it's
wonderful
around 9:45 now, if this is right on the wall.
night. Yes,
So we will see how we go, and we'll get Josh to put us on. And what I will do is just push this up and see, so we get some music and so forth.
There we go.
And we go from there.
and good night,
So,
everyone.
Good night, everyone. If you're
Thank
going
you.
out, make sure you put your seatbelt on, and those wonderful, beautiful lights on the highway will be right there. You will see what's up. Okay.
Fantastic.
Peace and love.
Peace and love. Oh, you got some Stanley going on.
Yeah. Yeah, they had that.
We
lined
needed that.
Yeah.
We needed that. Jesus, I already with people cussing me already. Oh God. How can you say anything nice to this man? He like a hostile.
Well,
I'm not
yeah,
here
but
for that.
you
I'm
should
not here for that.
you
if
see
you tell
the thing,
people-
the thing, if he lies, he got to pay the price.
Well, a lot of people don't pay that price here.
Yeah, but
I
he
don't
got
see
to pay
that.
that somewhere.
I don't see that here. That's come. I said, let me run downstairs. I don't think I'm gonna get to where I want to go on time, but it's okay. I'll go there in the morning. Oh yeah, I'm just laughing. But I hope that